What's up, guys? Welcome back to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at NIO Stock, ticker symbol NIO, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Wednesday, February 21st. Well, guys, NIO Stock here today, finishing the day down about 18 cents a share, 2.93%. You know, we've seen crazier things out of NIO here. But let's take a look here again on a number of different time frames just to get as much context as possible, including bias that I see here, as we head into tomorrow, which is Wednesday. And let's do that starting here on the 1 minute chart. You guys know I'm a scalper at heart. That's what I do every day. So I think I need to at least briefly take a look at the 1 minute to take a look to see if were there any opportunities to generate some revenue intraday that we can maybe look to replicate here tomorrow. Now, here on NIO, this is, I think, a lot more of a day-to-day play, because you notice here that after about 11 a.m. Eastern time, it says 10 a.m. here because I'm central, you can see here that volume and liquidity and volatility really kind of slows, becomes really hard to scalp these little 1 penny moves, of course. But if we zoom in on just the first hour and a half, really like hour of the day here, you can see that we had these two legs down. Okay, now a really common way to trade, assuming no, this is important, assuming no fundamental change, no news catalyst, okay? A really common way to trade intraday is traders will wait until a stock that has no news catalyst is moving on a motion and pushing its ATR. And the more legs it pushes against its ATR in one particular direction, they will oftentimes take the opposite direction with larger size and tight stops, okay, in different trades, right? With each additional leg. So in the case of NIO, for example, you might see a trader as this leg comes down, take small size with a tight stop. Let's say they get stopped out. This is not the best example, but just for example, it comes down, they take bigger size as then another leg comes down, and then they have a tight stop, and then they catch this reversal here as an intraday swing. Now the range on NIO and the percent change today was not like massive in terms of pushing its ATR, but I just wanted to point out that that's a really common way to trade, and even with a very small win rate, because you're getting stopped out with small stop slots trying to catch that curl. Once that curl does get caught, and adjusting the size of your bets, the better bet it becomes, right? Meaning the further into ATR that it pushes on no catalyst, no news, just emotion. There's actually a lot of edge in that style of trading, okay? Now, NIO wasn't such a big mover today that I would say that would be such a great trade to take, but it is what I will be watching on NIO here in the near future, as we've seen some elevated volatility out of this name as of late. By the way, if you guys want to come trade with me every single day, I'm sending out my personal alerts at that first link in the pinned comment, the Roensch Capital Gold server. We also have a free Discord server. However, the Gold server, of course, is much more hands-on. And whereas the free server is kind of like a place for traders to hang out, the Gold server is more so an educational resource, okay? Take a look at that in the first link in the pinned comment. Let's move on now away from the intraday mentality and more so to the day-to-day mentality, starting with the 5 minute chart here on NIO. So we look, what are we always looking for here? We're looking for big shifts in volume that correlate with big changes in stock price. That tells us, hey, a big sample size of the market agrees with this, let's say the long side, over this, the short side. So if we look here, you know, can we see big shifts? And you can see that really, you know, we expect big volume off the open. Down here toward the bottom, we actually had elevated volume. However, it was on both red and green candles, and it was kind of bottoming candles anyway. And we saw actually bigger volume on the bottoming candle than we did that bigger red candle. So for me here on the 5 minute chart, I'm not going to force anything. For me, a neutral day in terms of volume. I'm not seeing any bias, at least heavily, in one particular direction or the other. So on to levels that I'm watching tomorrow, starting with the 30 minute chart. Of course, you know I'm using the most popular technical indicators ever. The most popular ones that we could possibly use are the ones that I'm going to use, because I believe all of this is, of course, just nothing more than a self-fulfilling prophecy. When I say that, I think a lot of people think that that's inherently a bad thing. For me, that's exactly the way I would want it, because it gives us edge, okay? Now here on the 30 minute, obviously here's what I'm watching. If I'm a bull The 200 period's about 0.96% away. The 50 period's about 1.5% away. That is well within range for a one-day move on NIO. If I'm a bull, I want to see both of those get reclaimed and start treating that 50 period as support. Okay, get above there, backtest it, treat it as support, and pull away. And if I'm a bear, obviously I want to see neither of those get claimed, especially because we're right around the whole $1.06. Any test, I'd want to see a rejection, but ideally if I'm a bear, I just want to see a fade downside, and both of these curling downside and following the stock. All right, on to the 4-hour chart, which is incredibly in play as we speak here. We are currently right around that 50 period. So, well, actually, let's zoom out a little bit for a better view. What I'm really watching here on the 4-hour is that 50 period, because I want to see, I mean, we're basically right up against it here on the 4-hour chart. If I'm a bull, I want to see us pop up above that, reclaim it as support, and continue to grind higher along with that 50 period. We really haven't given it up as support yet, but we're so close that tomorrow, you bears, you're going to want to see a definitive downside fade to really show the market that, hey, we've lost the 50 period on the 4-hour chart. Okay, bulls, obviously you don't want that. You want that to continue curling upside, hold as support, push the stock higher up toward that 200 period on the 4-hour. Now, on to the most important chart of all, that's going to be the daily. Okay, you guys always hear me say this, right? When the story is obvious, don't overcomplicate it. Self-fulfilling prophecy. The nearest moving average is above $7. What's immediately relevant? $6 a share, right? If I'm a bull, my number one priority each day that we're under $6 a share, at least if that's the nearest round number, is to reclaim $6 a share. And we're currently so close to that level, I want to see $6 a share reclaim. Okay, if I'm a bull, get back above 6, claim it as support, and then push higher. And if I'm a bear, it's even easier. Continue to see a hard fade, 6 as resistance, and a hard fade downside, ideally down through that 565, 560 region. All right, 580 first, break downside, but really 6 as a resistance and a fade downside is every bear's dream, at least in the short term. Now, let's finish up here by taking a look at the bias in the options chain from today. It's heavy bias today. 100,000 total contracts traded. That's a pretty decent sample size. We can get some good data out of that. 76,000 of those were calls. 24,000 of those were puts. We are seeing over 3/4, okay, calls compared to puts. 75% of today's volume was calls compared to puts. And one more thing to take note of here, short-term speculators, you know, again, take it with a grain of salt because we're not seeing millions of contracts, but the short-term speculators, the 0 to 20 delta range, those are on average much shorter expiration. 25,000 calls, 7,000 puts. Heavy call bias, not only on the overall, but also the short-term speculation, also seeing a heavy call bias. As always, make sure your risk is managed because the options traders, there's no guarantee that they're not going to be wrong. All right. Listen, if you got value out of these videos, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to see me continue to cover NIO, you know, I absolutely am happy to do it. But please let me know in the comment section that you would like me to do so. That feedback is tremendously helpful. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.